Welcome to the Trellix Spotlight series. My name is Nick, and I will be your host. Today's session will focus on securing your perimeter, seamless two-way protection for email and cloud applications. This webinar will be recorded. If you prefer not to participate in the recorded session, please feel free to disconnect at this time. A link to today's recorded presentation will be emailed to all registered attendees. This webinar is a brief overview covering common use cases and scenarios regarding this topic. It is not intended to be all-encompassing. If assistance is needed, please contact Trellix Technical Support. If you have questions during the webinar, please type them in the Q&A window. This webinar may run longer or shorter based on your participation, and we recommend asking as many questions as you can to make the most of this series. If the Q&A window is not displayed, click the tab at the bottom of your session window and click on the Q&A icon. We will answer the questions during the final section of this webinar. If you experience any audio issues during the webcast, please drop and attempt to reconnect. Our speakers today are Andrew Logan and Nasir Shakur. Andrew Logan has over 25 years of experience in the cybersecurity industry, with the past 10 years focusing on data security, governance, and compliance. He has provided services to Trellix's customers that have a variety of industries: automotive, financial services, banking, pharmaceuticals, education, fintech, and the list continues. Nasir Shakur is the Global Solutions Architect for Trellix Email and Collaboration Security. An accomplished cybersecurity professional, he bridges complex technical solutions with business needs, leveraging over a decade of experience to design resilient and scalable security architectures for global enterprises, government agencies, and mid-market organizations. Nasir brings clarity, credibility, integrity, and a genuine passion to every presentation, sales engagement, and technical collaboration. He holds a Bachelor of Science in Aviation from The Ohio State University and is a CISSP. Ladies and gentlemen, Andrew and Nasir.
Hello, and welcome to the Trellix Spotlight series. Today we're going to be talking about securing your perimeter and using seamless two-way protection for email and cloud applications. Good afternoon. My name is Andy Logan. I'm a global solutions architect here at Trellix, and my area of focus is data security.
And I'm Nasir Shakur. I'm the Global Solutions Architect for Trellix Email and Collaboration Security.
Let's just take a moment to talk about the threat landscape. You can see by these numbers that the data loss prevention that is most attributed is email. That place is huge, right? It's 65% of all incidents. And what we want to talk about is understanding today's threats that organizations grapple with, both inbound and outbound threats. And we want to talk about the fact that whether that's malware or ransomware or insider data leak. Also, we want to be able to talk about that email remains the primary vector for attacks, right? You can see that the two biggest pieces that we see are inbound attacks, for example, like phishing attacks, and outbound incidents where your end users are inadvertently or intentionally letting sensitive information leave your organization. And last, we're going to touch on too here for cloud applications itself, being that they're also very vulnerable to threats, including things like malware and ransomware. But the cloud applications that you want to be able to consider are things like Slack and Teams and Salesforce. These are really important vectors for just about every organization. We do a broad range of them, which we'll touch on a bit further. This piece of it here we want to talk about is the cost of not doing anything, right? Sensitive data is everywhere. It's exploded everywhere. And then through the collaborative applications, it is going in a broad number of places to different third parties, whether it's something like Box.com or Google or Microsoft or whatever the case may be. And it's also that those platforms are vulnerable to advanced threats. Zero-day exploits, malware, et cetera. And this piece of it at the bottom that's really telling is that the cost of a breach now is, for a global breach, is $4.88 million. That's a 10% increase from the previous year. Those numbers just continue to grow and grow. I'm going to turn it over to you, Nasir, so you can talk about our seamless two-way protection.
Thanks, Andy. So two-way protection is very important, but let's talk a little bit about protecting on the inbound side. So talking about the power of an integrated approach, Trellix brings together key components of our platform to provide that comprehensive two-way protection that Andy was referencing. Email Security Cloud protects email as a critical threat vector, while IVX Enterprise Cloud secures your collaboration platforms and enterprise applications. And DLP Network Prevent ensures that sensitive data doesn't leave your organization. So here's what it means to you. First, we safeguard your sensitive data within email and cloud environments, stopping threats coming in and preventing sensitive data leakage outward. This is critical for a robust security posture. And whether it's accidental or intentional, insider data leakage is a significant risk. Our integrated solution mitigates these risks effectively. Now, sensitive policy management and unified security controls allows you to simplify your compliance efforts and ensures consistent security across your environment. And we understand that collaboration is important to your organization. So our solution empowers your employees to secure data securely in email, collaboration platforms, and enterprise applications without compromising your security. Ultimately, this integration strengthens your overall security posture and simplifies threat monitoring to prevent potential breaches before they occur. Together, these solutions provide a unified defense against both inbound and outbound threats, giving you a holistic and robust security framework. Now let's dive deeper into how we defend against inbound threats. As you can see on this slide, we're focusing on stopping attacks before they can compromise your systems and data. We're talking about protecting against a whole range of sophisticated threats. Trellix Email Security Cloud is your first line of defense. It's not just basic spam filtering. It protects against zero-day exploits, phishing, ransomware, business email compromise or imposter or impersonation, spear phishing, URL-based threats as well. And then our IVX Enterprise Cloud extends this protection to other collaboration platforms that your organization uses to work with your business partners, suppliers, or clients. IVX Enterprise Cloud uses secure API calls to easily integrate with cloud services like AWS, Azure, and Google, cloud tools like Dropbox, Box, and OneDrive, and enterprise applications like Salesforce, WebEx, Slack, Microsoft Teams, and more. And IVX Enterprise Cloud secures your critical collaboration platforms and enterprise applications from threats like malware and zero-day exploits. So Email Security Cloud and IVX Enterprise Cloud work together to stop attacks across all of these communication channels to prevent those initial compromises. This layered approach is crucial because it successfully protects inbound attacks and can quickly protect against those threats that could lead to devastating consequences for your organization. Now, Andy, could you tell us a little bit more about the outbound protection?
Yeah, thank you, Nasir. When we talk about the outbound protection piece of it is that we often know that our users can accidentally or sometimes intentionally transfer data outside the organization through approved channels, but that should still be monitored. So in this particular case in here, you can see that the user is sending an email outbound and that Trellix Email Security Cloud inspects it, hands it off to the Trellix data loss prevention engine, and that says, let's see if we can identify and block sensitive information within the email and the attachment based on our comprehensive out-of-the-box data loss prevention policies. So you can see that this stops sensitive data being exfiltrated before the breach occurs. And we'll also touch on the next piece of it with the cloud application piece of it. Now in here, the same thing occurs. Our users we want our users to be able to collaborate both internally and externally, maybe with partners, maybe with customers, whatever the case may be. But we want to make sure that they do it securely so we can stop that sensitive information before the breach occurs. But you can see that the user takes a file or some kind of data and wants to put it into a cloud application like Salesforce, like Box.com, etc. Trellix IVX Enterprise Cloud inspects it, and then it hands it off to the Trellix data loss prevention engine that then does a deeper inspection to see if there's sensitive data in there, and it will either block it or allow it depending on the nature of the type of data that it is. So once that's done, if it's allowed, then the user can continue to safely share that information with trusted partners, trusted customers, and other parts of the organization.
So that's covering the outbound portion of that kind of two-way protection. So yeah, we're protecting against inbound threats, malicious content that may be coming in that could compromise systems and attempt to exfiltrate data. But if they're attempting to exfiltrate that data, then our DLP network prevent can stop that data leakage if something has been kind of compromised at that point, or in the case of somebody just accidentally sending, sensitive information through any of these, email or cloud communication channels. Is that right, Andy?
That's absolutely correct. Thank you, Nasir.
Awesome. So now's the moment that we've been waiting for. Let's move on and show the demo.
Great.
As I mentioned before, policies are created in EPO, ePolicy Orchestrator, and applied to DLP Network Prevent. So if we go and look at policies, under DLP policy, we have a policy configured here. If we look into that policy, we'll see that there is a rule set. So rule sets are within the policies that are applied to the DLP Network Prevent. You'll notice in this particular rule set, we have a couple of types of rules configured. So one email protection rule and one web protection rule. If we go further into that rule set, we can see those rules. So there is the email protection rule and the web protection rules that are configured. So let's look a little bit closer into these rules. So in the email protection rule, you'll notice that there is a condition, and the conditions give you really granular options for how to do detections. But at the core of these granular options are the classifications. So here we have a classification set. So any one of the email elements can apply. So whether it's headers, subject, attachments, or body, any of those can apply. And then it's containing any of the classifications that we have configured as opposed to all of them. And then we have the classification itself. So there are a number of built-in classifications that you can choose here, or you can create custom classifications as I did here. Now, within the classifications, there's a number of classification criteria. So let's take a quick look at that. Now, as I mentioned, there are a number of built-in classifications. Let's look under PII here and select one. So under Australian PII, you'll notice here that there are a number of classification criteria that are configured. And we can view some of those and see the complexity around each of these criteria. So in this case, we're looking at a dictionary, and we're also looking at proximity in order to act on this classification. So to review, within each rule, there can be complex classifications, and there can be a number of rule sets that are configured. Within each rule set, there can be multiple rules. We showed the email protection rule previously. We also have a web protection rule that is configured here as well. And each of the rules can use the same classifications as we've done here, or different classifications as well. Now we've looked at the conditions for each of the rules, but for each rule, there also needs to be a reaction set. So taking a look at the reaction, for the purposes of email security and web security, we will be looking under DLP network prevent. And under this web protection rule, you'll notice that we have an action set to block, and then we've selected to report the incident and store an original file as evidence. Within the email protection rule, the reaction that we have set is to add this X header with a value that is set for the action that Email Security Cloud should take. So there are a number of different actions here, as you can see, and these actions are mapped to Email Security Cloud actions, which are slightly different than what we have available within our ePolicy orchestrator. And the policies are applied to the DLP network prevent. Now, let's take a look at the configuration within IVX Enterprise Cloud and Email Security Cloud. When a violation is detected, then Email Security Cloud or IVX Cloud will take action based on the policy that has been configured and the reaction that's been configured here in ePolicy Orchestrator. So let's go to IVX Cloud. And when we go to settings and DLP settings, you'll notice that there are a listing of API keys. Each of these API keys represent an integration or manual submission method that we have configured already. But these are representing that those integrations have been integrated with our DLP as well. So we have the DLP network prevent host and port listed, as well as an action that has been configured. In this case, I have S3 integration configured, and if we look into that and edit it, we'll see that we configured the host, which is the DLP network prevent, and the action we have set is quarantine. However, that action is dependent on the integration that we have. So whether it's S3 or Box or one of the other integrations that we have available, these actions may be somewhat different depending on what each of those integrations are allowed to do. Once the integration has been configured and a violation has been detected, you will see those violations under submissions in IVX Enterprise Cloud. Here are a few tests that I've done with my S3 integration. As you'll notice here, here's the S3 integration. And you'll notice that these submissions are all showing a verdict of clean because these were clean files. They didn't have any malicious content. But if we go in and take a further look into it, the analysis details again says that it's clean. But if we scroll down to DLP information, we will notice that it is indicating that there was a DLP action of block here, and then the IVX Cloud action was set to quarantine. So in the case of S3, we would move from the monitor bucket to the quarantine bucket, which a general user would not have access to. We can also see in the screen activity here the social security number or fake social security number that I had added to the file that was uploaded to my monitor bucket. Now, let's take a look at the integration within Email Security Cloud. In Email Security Cloud, DLP integration is configured under policies, and this would be outbound policies because it's DLP, and we'll search for the DLP type and select one of those DLP policies. You'll notice here that we have configuration set, and we'll go in and take a look at that configuration. Again, we have the DLP network prevent host IP and port configured, and then we have an action mapping configured. You saw that we had it configured to add this X header, and then the X header action is mapped to an action that we would configure within Email Security Cloud. This is where we're doing that action mapping. And so in our network DLP prevent, there are a number of different actions that can be configured, as you can see here. And those can be applied to any different email hosts. And depending on what capabilities those hosts have, these actions would be mapped potentially to a different set of actions within those email hosts. So in the case of Email Security Cloud, we are doing an action mapping based on the actions that Email Security Cloud can take. So in this case, when our DLP network prevent is configured to block and return the email to sender, Email Security Cloud is set here to quarantine. But we can change that to do something different, such as blind carbon copy it to a particular email address instead, or to drop or take no action, which would be to deliver the message and just simply log the violation. Same thing with the additional actions that are configured within our policies that we've configured for network DLP prevent. Each of these can be mapped to an action that Email Security Cloud can actually take. So in this case, if it's set to bounce, we would actually drop that message. Quarantine, obviously set to quarantine, and then encrypt, redirect, or notify, we've had set to no action, which would be to simply deliver that message. If we have the action mapping set to quarantine in Email Security Cloud, we can go to quarantine and look at the outbound quarantine, and we can see the violations here. We'll show the violations as policy actions, and if we review that, we'll notice that there's a policy action verdict that is showing up here. And then under hygiene analysis summary, we're also seeing that there's a policy action that was taken. The message was quarantined by the system. If we go into events and we scroll down, we'll notice that there is a policy evaluation verdict of fail. And then we can also see the rule that was applied from a particular rule set and what that action was set to. And as with all quarantine messages, the admin can download the email to review the entire email, including the attachment that had the policy violation. And your compliance team that may primarily work out of our ePolicy orchestrator could have access to those violations and the evidences from those violations as well. All right, we've covered a lot of ground talking about and showing how Trellix provides a seamless integrated solution for two-way protection of your email and cloud applications. If you'd like to see it in action in your own environments, we encourage you to go to trellix.com/request-demo to get started. With that, I'll hand it back to Nick to kick off our Q&A.
Thanks, Andrew and Nasir. As a reminder for everyone, Trellix Education Services offers exceptional training to go along with our award-winning products. If you would like to learn more, please visit the website listed on your screen to see all of our offerings. Now let's get our Q&A session started. I see we have several questions, but it's not too late to add your question. Please type it in the Q&A window to submit. Additionally, take a moment to fill out the survey. Your feedback and suggestions are always appreciated. If sensitive data is encrypted, would DLP still be helpful?
Thanks for that question. I think that question came from Alan. Thank you. Our solution will attempt to open password protected files for analysis. We use a number of different techniques to do that. So generally, we can open most encrypted files that are being transferred. But if for some reason, whatever reason, if the file can't be opened, Network DLP Prevent can detect that the file was encrypted and can take action based on that finding itself.
Got it. Okay, perfect. Thank you for that one. Is IVX like a sandbox?
Well, yes, IVX is like a sandbox, but more than a sandbox. It's a multi-vector virtual execution environment, and it has countermeasures that are specifically designed for threat analysis. It has the ability to detect things like sandbox-aware evasion tactics, things that are used by many of the malware objects nowadays. So it's not just a sandbox, but it has sandbox elements to it, but it's much more.
Got it. Okay, perfect. Thank you for that one as well. Can DLP endpoint also be connected to this network IVX offering to provide comprehensive protection for sensitive data?
The answer is that DLP endpoint and DLP network are connected, sharing policies and events and more. Endpoint policies will not be transferred to IVX, but you can get a holistic view of your data security posture with a combination of these tools.
Got it. Okay, perfect. Thank you for that one as well, Andy. How many out-of-the-box policies does this product have?
Trellix has a broad range of policies, many of which are around privacy, around regulatory compliance, and things like intellectual property. So we have a number of those tools that are out of the box. It's in the hundreds.
Got it. Okay, perfect. Thank you for that one as well. It looks like that's all the questions that we have for today's session. Before we close, just a quick call to action. Don't forget to update your Thrive user settings, your profile settings, to manage your support notification service preferences. This will ensure you stay up to date with the latest Trellix products, webinars, and key enhancements. You can find a link to the Thrive user guide in the handout section for this webinar with step-by-step instructions on how to adjust your settings. I want to thank everyone for joining today's webinar, and a big thank you to our speakers, Andrew and Nasir. This concludes today's webinar. Stay safe, everyone.